This is the Fuel Sports Network.
Behold the King of Kings.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
I'm dropping the hammer.
No, you're not.
And that's the bottom line.
Here, have a quarter, make a phone call.
I have wrestled with an alligator.
What?
I done tussled with a whale.
What?
I done handcuffed lightning, throw thunder in jail.
Funky butt loving. Did he say funky butt loving?
There's no crying. There's no crying in baseball.
Let the big dog eat.
Woo! 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 It's time!
What else is there to say? I mean, at this point, you ever been in a situation in life where something goes terribly awry and you can't help but think to yourself, self, what could make this worse? What could I do to mess this up even more? The desperation that sinks in, that takes over an individual to make them have irrational decision-making processes. The St. Louis Baseball Cardinals at this point, I laugh. I laugh, and it has gotten to a point with the organization and that it just seems like the left hand doesn't even know what the right hand is doing anymore at this stage of the game. What are we doing? How many times has Jordan Walker been up, then been back down? And for what? For what reason? He's killing it in Memphis. You don't even give him the opportunity here. You bring him up, you send him back down. That's one problem. This is just one problem to the crux of the multitude of issues within this organization. And now it seems that they're running around with a fire extinguisher everywhere they go, trying to put out little fires whenever they have a massive one raging behind them, burning the whole building to the ground. We're going to get into all this. Okay. We're going to get deep into this. I am going to go absolutely nuclear on the Cardinals organization. I'm going to say a lot of different things that a lot of people may or may not like, but I've had it up to here with the considerable amount of, how should I put this politically correct? To hell with it. Who cares? BS that continues to get put out by the organization to try to cover up this joke of a situation. One thing we want to start on is the usual housekeeping stuff. As always, Fuel Sports Network on Roku, Amazon Fire. We're on Facebook. We're on X. We're definitely on YouTube. Go subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're a YouTuber, if you're a YouTube person, you prefer to watch YouTube, we're over there too. Don't worry your pretty little hearts. We are over there as well. Go subscribe. Make sure you turn on your notifications so that way you know whenever we're going live and we're producing new content. Make sure that you go over to fuelsportsnetwork.com. We've got the website over there. It's constantly evolving, constantly changing, new stuff going up, new things changing all the time. So go over there, check everything out, and make sure you check out all the great shows. I can't even begin to list them all over on Fuel Sports Network and fuelsportsnetwork.com. Also want to talk real quickly about McDougall Bats. They are not a sponsor. I purchased bats from McDougall Bats. We are an affiliate with them. They make a great, great product that's made right here in the good old US of A with US of A products. I know the owner, John, personally. Great, great guy. And he's got a wonderful, wonderful product. You guys have seen me multiple times showing the bats and things like that. If you want to see the bats, I'm more than happy to show you the bats. If you want to get in the comments section, let me know, and we'll go ahead and make that happen for you. But McDougall Bat Companies, make sure you use a referral code, Fuel Sports Network. If you're going over there to buy a bat, trust me when I tell you this, buy once, cry once. And it's the same way it is with everything else. So let's really kind of get into this for a brief moment. I'm going to go nuclear on the Cardinals organization. I'm tired of it. I've had enough. I've buried my head in the sand long enough and just laughed about it to an extent and to a point where this needs to be said. It needs to be said, and I'm going to say it. A couple of things that I want to point out is the embarrassment that is the decision-making process within this organization. And that Bill DeWitt has continued to allow these things to go on. That he could have stepped in at any given point in time and he could have addressed these things. And he could have fixed them. I always try to stay positive about the organization as much as I can because it's not the player's fault. I want to make it very clear. This is an executive issue. This is not a player issue. This is an executive problem. The Walt Jocketty and La Russa fumes have finally dried up. It took a few years, but they have finally dried up. No longer can you take an individual, pluck them from obscurity, and throw them into a position of power and then have them be at the upper echelons of Major League Baseball and succeed. John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations, formerly the GM, who inserted a puppet and Michael Gersh as the GM of the organization, so that way he didn't have to take the brunt of the decision-making things that went on that just basically bulldozed this entire organization into obscurity. The one person to blame here, and I know everybody's going to sit there and say, oh, there he goes. He's going to say John Mozeliak, is Bill DeWitt. Bill DeWitt and Bill DeWitt Jr. Bill DeWitt Jr., Bill DeWitt Jr. and Bill DeWitt II. Those are the ones to blame. You want to start pointing fingers? It starts at the top. They could have done something a hell of a long time ago to address this situation, to address this scenario, and fix the real core issues, the real core problems of what's going on within this organization, but they refuse to do so. They continue to allow John Mozeliak and his cronies to run roughshod over the entire organization and continue to run this thing into the ground. They need to be terminated immediately with extreme prejudice. How this man has allowed to continue on with his position of power, hiring every single joker that comes along that's the perfect yes man for his little agenda, for his Moneyball fantasy wannabe, his hybrid, whatever it is, that he sits around and he thinks about how great of a smart guy he is. Oh, I fleeced somebody for this person. I fleeced somebody. I implore anyone out there, you tell me, prior to La Russa, prior to Walt Jocketty, okay, how many great teams did we have with the White Rat during the 80s, the Speed era, Willie McGee, Ozzie Smith, John Tudor, the list goes on and on and on. Jack Clark. I could name them. Just blah, 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 all day, but I'll be wasting all my time here because I'm not going to get my point across. We had great teams. We had bad era in 70s. But then at the back end of the 80s, when it was very, very clear that Gussie Busch and the Busch organization no longer wanted to own the franchise anymore, and they wanted to dump it. The DeWitt family bought it. They made smart moves. What did they do? They went out and they hired Tony La Russa and Walt Jocketty. Little history lesson here. This might shock some people because they may or may not know it. Some of you smart fans out there do know this. The Cardinals are the Oakland Athletics of the 80s. There, I said it. Ooh. I said it. People don't want to hear it. Tough. Sorry. They are the Oakland Athletics of the 80s. They brought in La Russa. They brought in Duncan. They brought in Jocketty, who was their scouting and scouting director, farm director, things of that nature. He was in that the scouting portion of it. So the guy had an extensive amount of knowledge about that, about getting players, developing players, finding those players, and turning them into what he felt was going to be a quality major league player. And they spent years building this. There was check and balance. And Jocketty and La Russa worked hand in hand with one another. They all came over from Oakland. They brought that winning solution and that winning idea set mindset over. Why do you think we got McGwire? Why do you think we got Jim Edmonds? How do you think we got Scotty Rowland? In this iteration of the organization, I would ask pretty much mostly all people out there in the video scope who's listening to this. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Share, like, subscribe, do all the things that you need to do to get it out there. I appreciate everything and all the help. But I ask anyone out there with this organization and this iteration, what big moves have they made outside of Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt? How many pitchers did they get? They had, 2 or 3 different opportunities to land Max Scherzer, who wanted to come back, who was willing to take the hometown discount. The guy's a bona fide Hall of Famer. No. Why? Because why? Because he was a Boris client? And because of the whole Pujols thing? And everybody gives this organization this kind of pass. Well, if it wasn't for the passing of Oscar Taveras and this and that, and it's really threw a monkey wrench. Okay, so how did Oscar Taveras have anything to do with pitching? How did Oscar Taveras have anything to do with development? Tragedy that it is. And it saddens me to this day that we don't have the luxury of being able to see Oscar Taveras play. But how does that have anything to do with pitching development, infielder development, mindset? And you see these players leave and they have success wherever it is that they go. We can name names, but you guys already know who they are. And then you have John Mozeliak out bargain bin hunting. I've given this guy a pass for way, way too long because I understand from an executive position. I understand from a position of decision-making how difficult it is to be able to do this job and to not consistently get criticized over everything that you do, all the decisions that get made on a daily basis. You're always criticized. You rarely ever do you have somebody stand up and go, you know what, he's doing the right thing. It sucks, but he's, or she's doing the right thing. Yeah, she's making the tough decisions. Very rarely does that happen. In this instance, he owns this 1,000%. He has destroyed this organization further than anyone else. How did he get into his position? We could go years back. We could go into detail. There's times I've went into it. The guy has been cutthroat to get to the position he's in, and he stayed in the position he's in because of it. And now all he does is hire yes man after yes man after yes man to cover his ass and to cover all of his mistakes that he continues to make and destroy this organization and run it into the ground. Bill DeWitt and the DeWitt family need to do the right thing today, and they need to fire him, and they need to fire him with extreme prejudice without even questioning it. This man needs to be sent his papers and sent out the door with a kick right between the cheeks and say, don't ever come back. Because that's the reality of the situation we're in right now. And I rarely ever say, oh, well, you need to just blow it up, walk away. I rarely ever say that. In this instance, I think we're just about damn near there at this point to where we just need to just blow it all up, because they have destroyed every single aspect of every single level of this organization because they want to make it their own personal little playground, because their narcissism and their arrogancy knows no bounds. And instead of making the correct decisions, instead of making the smart plays, instead of making those, they do what? They continue to do the same thing, wash, rinse, repeat over and over and over again. You have Nolan Arenado, probably one of the best third basemen in the league. I would say top 5, still even at his age. And you have an opportunity to win. And you're running journeyman pitchers out there that are at the back end of your career, and you're going out and picking up the Lance Lynn's and the Matt Carpenters. And why? Because it's a feel-good story. This is business. This isn't a feel-good story. If they can bring something to the plate and they can produce, then fine. But if you had the opportunity to go out and land a top flight starter or a middle of the rotation guy that's lights out, you do it. You don't go out and get some kind of a bargain bin guy that had a 5 ERA last year that got hammered at the back end of the season. Say, well, we really just liked his attitude and we liked his mechanics. So we're going to bring him in and we're going to teach him the cardinal way of doing baseball. We're going to teach him the right way to play baseball. You clearly can't even do that. Because when you have players that leave and do better to get out from underneath the umbrella of the, just let's be frank about it, the total SHIT show that's going on with this organization and continues to go on, there's one common denominator, folks. One. What is the one consistent thing that has not changed? We have changed how many managers since La Russa? Matheny, Schilt, Marmol. We've had 3 managers in that time frame. They have a little bit of success, and then they're gone. They have a little bit of success, and then they're gone. Mike Schilt, he's over in San Diego, having a great amount of success now, turning that team around, fixing things, doing great things. All the other players that's left, success. Dylan Carlson's now found his stride. He's hitting home runs. He's doing his thing. And why? Probably because he was getting choked out here. Probably because the people that you have here that are teaching this BS philosophy, that's probably the issue. You ever think about that? There's a big issue with coaches that continue to shove this garbage down these players' throats, and they eventually get tired of it. And then the player's like, well, what am I doing? I know. I played organized sports. I know a bad coach when I see one. I know a bad leader when I see one. I've experienced it, been around it. So what needs to be done? You can blame the coaches all you want. Yes, the coaches should be terminated. They should be let go as well. But this also goes way up the ladder, and it starts at the DeWitts. And so I look at the DeWitt family and I say, get up off your duff and do the right thing, and you fire John Mozeliak today, not tomorrow, not next week, not at the end of the season. You fire him with extreme prejudice today, and you fire all his lackeys to go with it. I've had enough of these individuals thinking that this organization is their personal playground, that they could just do whatever they damn well please and get away with it, and it's okay. It's no longer okay anymore at this point. It's no longer acceptable at this stage of the game. When you can go onto any social media platform today, right now, and you could look at what's being said about this organization. And you could see what the fans are telling Bill DeWitt to do. Bernie Miklasz. Everybody knows that knows me, knows I am no Miklasz fan. Used to be at one point in time, but I am no longer a Miklasz fan. But he makes a very valid point in one of his latest articles and pieces over at Scoops with Danny Mac. What are the Cardinals doing with Jordan Walker's career? That you need to intervene, Bill DeWitt Jr., and you need to put an end to the madness of what's going on. Because it is clear that the management team that you have in place can no longer do the job. This is a top to bottom problem. Everyone needs to understand that the reason that these bad coaches and these bad decision makers have been put into place is strictly because of the people that are making the decisions at the top of the ladder. That's the problem. And until this gets done, nothing's going to change. Attendance has been dwindling. People are not excited. Katie Woo also has come out with a statement. We're going to pull this up, and I want to show you guys what I mean by this, because this is what we're getting at here. This is one of the main things that I want to point out. Let's bring this up right here. If you can't read it, I'll go ahead and read it for you. But it says there wasn't a real disconnect between Mozeliak and Barmall over Walker's usage. He was brought up to help the team during a 7-game stretch and was best 40-man option for the time they needed him. The organization is prioritizing winning at all costs over development, says it all. But does it? Or is this just another consistent issue that we continue to see? Let me ask you, when you read that article, when you read that piece, does it come off as genuine? Or does it come off as PRBS? I know what it comes off to me as. I've seen enough of it over the last 10, 15 years from this organization. So what is it? You tell me. Because I'm going to tell you. I'm going to be real with the fans because I'm a fan just like the rest of you. And I'm tired of seeing this. I'm tired of consistently seeing these disconnects within the organizations. And how it is that you've got a guy in Luken Baker that's down in Memphis that's just banging out home runs, that's just killing it down there, and you can't find a way to bring this kid up. He's a bat that can help you win today. And if Paul Goldschmidt is not performing, then Paul Goldschmidt needs to take a platoon role. I don't care how much he's getting paid. I don't care how much it makes him unhappy. But if he can't perform, then that's what he needs to do. Well, guess what? What did they do with Albert Pujols whenever he came up? They're trying to put him anywhere they could. They were putting him in left field. They were putting him at third base. They were putting him at second base. They were putting him at first base on occasion. I think the only place they did not put him was shortstop and catcher and pitcher. The 3 areas on the field they did not put him. Till eventually it took Mark McGuire himself to go to Tony La Russa and say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm on the back 40. I'm done at the end of the year. I'm hurt. You might as well just put the kid in. That was McGuire and La Russa working together to make that happen. Did the GM get involved? Oh, sure didn't. But why is it? Pardon. Got a little excited there. Tipped the microphone just a little bit. My apologies. But this is really getting underneath my skin when you continue to see the turd polishing going on with the organization, with certain reporters that have access, and you see it consistently. Ryan makes a really good point here. I want to bring this up, and I want to show what Ryan says over here on X, because Ryan's making a really, really good point. And I really like this. So we're going to bring this up, and I'm going to point this out because I really, really like this a lot. Ryan says that this is what he would do if he was in the organization, he was making decisions right here. Here's what I'd do if I'm Bill DeWitt. First thing I'd do is fire John Mozeliak, Michael Gersh, and Gary LaRocque, and Marmol. Next, I promote Shane Bloom. I promote Randy Flores. 3 assistant GMs, keep Moises Rodriguez in his current role, but I expanded his job to also be director of international scouting. He thrived in that role before. Put Bloom in charge of hiring new director of player development, as that's Bloom's specialty. Randy Flores is in charge of hiring a new director of scouting, as that is his area of expertise. He makes a very, very solid, valid point here that I want to stress as I come back in your lower section of the screen. Hello, how are you? Ryan makes a very good point here in this post that I want to stress. This is how you make decisions. This is what needs to be done. No longer are excuses going to be tolerated. No longer are these excuses of, well, we just haven't found the right scenario or whatever. It has become vehemently clear to everyone involved. As you look at what Ryan on the right has posted over on X, it is a very valid point. It's been very quiet over in the comments section today. Usually it's a pretty raucous crowd. Why is that? Why has it been so quiet in the comment section? Well, I can tell you why. It's because people are too busy doing this as I'm talking. And all the people that are out there viewing today, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Again, like, share, subscribe, get it out there, share it on your local groups and everything else. I appreciate all the help you guys give us over here at Fuel Sports Network and all that you do. But this is what needs to be done, folks. The time for talk is over. The time for action has begun. What will Bill DeWitt himself do? That remains to be seen. But you've been put on notice. Cardinals organization, Bill DeWitt, the DeWitt family, you've been put on notice. This is Derek King from Derek King Show signing out. Take what I say as a fair warning.